On Tuesday, a new report by the UN has accused Israel of deliberately targeting Palestinian children, resulting in genocide, crimes against humanity and war crimes in the Gaza Strip, as well as war crimes in the occupied West Bank. The report alleges that Israeli authorities and security forces have deliberately carried out acts inflicting death and severe bodily and mental harm on hundreds of thousands of Palestinian children, and that the killings continued even after last October's ceasefire in Gaza. The Commission goes on to say it has reasonable grounds to conclude that those acts form part of a deliberate strategy to destroy the future of the Palestinians in Gaza by targeting their children. Israel's Foreign Ministry has responded, saying that it utterly rejects the Commission's report. They call it libellous, sham and a propaganda piece, as outrageous as its previous ones. But joining me now is Dr. Nizam Mamode, who is a surgeon who has recently returned from Gaza. It was not his first time in Gaza either, and we're very grateful to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. The Israeli military also saying, and you'll have heard this before, that it does not target civilians. It accuses Hamas of using the population as a human shield. But can you tell us about your experiences there, particularly when it pertains to children?
Yes, I mean, I've personally operated on a number of children who have described very clearly being targeted by quadcopters or drones.
Can you tell us what a quadcopter is? Because when I saw this report yesterday, it comes up many, many times, these quadcopters.
Yes, so these are drones. So there were surveillance drones prior to October 2023 over Gaza. Now, as well as the surveillance drones, you have these drones which fire on people. They drop explosives, they fire bullets, and they fire small pellets which cause a huge amount of damage, particularly in children, and in fact are illegal under international law.
And the children that you operated on, what did they tell you these quadcopters did? What was their
So I can remember one
experience?
child, for example, who was 7, Amir, who described very clearly that a bomb was dropped. He was knocked over by the blast. He was in a group of tents, and then he heard a drone above him, turned around, and then it fired on him. And we had many, many reports like that from children and adults.
What is it like as a surgeon to operate on a young child who has injuries like this?
Well, it's terrible, and indeed it's not just one child, it's over and over and over again. When I was there 2 years ago, we had maybe 30 or 40 serious injuries every day. There are less now, but despite the so-called ceasefire, we still see about 10 people a day killed in Gaza.
And what sort of injuries do they have, these people that you're seeing now since the ceasefire?
The same kind of injuries. So some of them will have blast injuries. So, for example, while I was there, a bomb was dropped on a wedding party, and I think about 10, 12 people were killed. Some of them will have blast injuries, some of them will be shot, some of them will be targeted with these small pellets.
What conditions are you operating in? Can you give us sort of a visual picture of what the hospital, Al-Shifa, that you've been in is like at the moment?
Yes, I mean, none of the hospitals, there are 36 hospitals, or there were in Gaza, none of them are functioning properly at the moment. Shifa is...
We're seeing pictures of Shifa at the moment,
yes.
one of the main hospitals now.
Shifa was really the jewel for Palestinian healthcare. It had 700 beds before the war.
But you see it now?
Yeah, it's been attacked twice. It's been completely destroyed. One building is left, and that's been refurbished. That was the gynecology building. That's now used for all the surgical patients. The medical patients are still in tents in the courtyard. There's no CT scanner. There's no basic equipment. We were doing major surgery, and the only painkiller we had post-operatively was paracetamol, which was awful, really.
Okay, so you've operated on someone, a major surgery, and you give them a paracetamol. There's
Yes.
nothing else. What would you normally
Morphine.
give?
Morphine, fentanyl. And these medications, this equipment that we need just to run a basic service, surgical service, it's all at the border. It's not being allowed in.
And just to be clear, this was 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
Okay. Were you yourself able to bring in any medical equipment?
I had to argue to be allowed to bring in my stethoscope.
Argue with who? Tell us about that process.
The Israeli border police, effectively. So anything that is not for personal use is not allowed in. So you can't bring in medication for other people, you can't bring in bandages, anything like that. I had a stethoscope, I had my surgical magnifying loupes, and I had a small selection of instruments to do vascular surgery. They told me I couldn't bring any of those in. I had to argue with the guards in order to get that in, and said I couldn't do my job without them. But it's not uncommon for people either to have that taken off them or to be refused entry. What
about your colleagues there? How are they?
They are struggling. They have no significant income. They're paid a minimum amount, rarely. Some of them are working entirely voluntarily. They have survived the worst of the famine and the bombing, but many of them see no future for themselves.
What do they go home to?
Many of them go home to tents, so most of the population actually now is in tents. And when I say tents, these are not proper tents, many of them. They're really shacks with bits of carpet stuck to poles, no electricity, no sanitation, no running water. And that becomes very, very difficult when you have so many people, over 1 million people, crowded together in a very small area.
Of course. And what about the situation with those things in Al-Shifa? Did you have water? How was the sanitation inside the hospital?
We had water in the hospital. It went off, I think, on a couple of occasions. Electricity went off from time to time. But somehow the administration manages to keep things going, more or less.
What would you say is needed most at the moment in Al-Shifa? I mean, you say things are being held up at the border. Is there one critical thing that they need?
Well, I think basic medical supplies. I can see no reason to deny a civilian population basic medical supplies. This is unprecedented in my experience, and I cannot see the harm in allowing medication, bandages and basic surgical equipment into Gaza.
You talked about your colleagues and how they are, but on this visit you've just made, compared to when you were there before, what is the level of trauma that people have suffered? How I mean, it seems like such a simple question, but how are people coping and surviving?
I think they just go day by day. So one of my Palestinian colleagues, whilst we were there, on 3 occasions, the car ahead of him was targeted by a missile and blown up. And he was quite shaken on the first occasion because he said 20 metres, that could have been me killed. By the 3rd occasion, he'd become resigned to it and said, well, if it's my time, it's my time. This is the kind of thing that people are facing on a daily basis, even though there's supposed to be a ceasefire.
Is it difficult coming back?
Yes.
How do you feel when you return after what you've experienced and been through? It must be so hard.
I think I feel quite angry that this country, which traditionally has stood for justice and has stood up for the oppressed, has an international reputation for doing that, is letting this genocide go by and doing nothing about it.
And is that why you feel it's important to come and talk to us, for instance?
It's
today?
vital. It's vital for people like me who've been out to come and talk, because no journalists are being allowed in. As you know, many of the journalists, local journalists, have been killed. They're immensely brave people who still try and do their job. We are the only people really who can bring back first-hand accounts of what it's like. So it's vital for us to come and do this.
And when you share these experiences, and I'm not just talking with me and with our viewers, but to other people here in the UK, what response do you get?
I think most people are shocked. Most people aren't really aware that the situation is still dreadful. Most people aren't aware of the extent of what's happened. Over 20,000 children killed, nearly 60,000 children who've lost one or both parents. It's absolutely appalling.
Who do you hold responsible for that, Dr. Mamode, the fact that people don't realise what is going on still, even since the ceasefire?
Well, I think I have to say the mainstream media. You don't see very much on Gaza in the mainstream media these days. You see more of it elsewhere. And I think there is a partly understandable reluctance to say too much because people are then accused of being biased. As this recent report has shown, the wealth of evidence is absolutely overwhelming. That there is absolutely no way anyone cannot read that report and be upset by it and be convinced that the evidence there is there and that these things have happened and are happening.
It has been very valuable to have you with us. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us and for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Mamode.
Thank you.